But what I really respect from what you've told me, just in regards to Fonte, I mean, his decision to actually go all in with the vocals. What really spoke to me, because I'm all about the melody, right? I
Yeah,
love like Santana and like Miles Davis when he switched to, when he went modal. I mean,
oh yeah,
influential. I mean, he could do it all. He could do all the bebop stuff. He could play as fast as Charlie Parker and all those dudes, but he decided not to, and he just opened up.
yeah.
The simplicity of it is all. I mean, maybe that's all you really need, or it's not all about just acrobatics, which brings it back to the beauty of the simplicity of music, and that's what I
This is
found
right.
with Fonte's voice. He wasn't all, Maxwell and D'Angelo,
Right.
or Stevie Charlie Wilson, like all the melisma and all this stuff. You don't need that at the time. Like vocalists, especially R&B vocalists, you had to have the skill, like Beyonce, sort of.
Yeah, do the runs and do the, yep.
Yeah, which is amazing. And I don't want to
Yeah,
take anything away from that, but that's what really spoke to me about Fonte being a lover of melody, and for
yeah,
him to make the decision to say, hey, you know what, like a musical decision, for not to conform, like we said before, just because he has majorly a hip hop background.
yeah.
Big step, like you said, probably big risk to take, but it's not like I wouldn't be a risk such as Secret Life of Plants, because
Right, right, right.
it's
But it was a risk, and I will say this: it was a
yeah,
very
yeah.
brave. It was very brave of him.
Mm.
Um, what I hear in his voice around those days, like later on, he really started growing into being a singer, and he would actually practice and take lessons and technique and stuff like that. But at the time, he was raw, but he was honest, and he sounded like the man that wrote the songs. And I think as such, it make perfect sense for him to sing them, even though he wasn't necessarily, like you said, a Maxwell, but there was an honesty, an authenticity to it that made it all make sense. Like, and even sometimes a vulnerability into it because he wasn't perfect by certain standards. It packed a punch, and I think it was a very brave thing for him to do. Like, here's this guy that everybody's saying is like the best new rapper since like Most Def or somebody. You know what I mean? Like, let's face it, I certainly believe that. Um, and of course, he stayed doing that with Little Brother, so it wasn't like he walked away from it, but he knew the difference. He knew that this called for something different, and he was brave enough to do that, and it paid off as some risks do. We could have played it safe. We could have done another connected. We would have been bored ourselves probably. Our audience might have really liked it, but we decided to go in the other direction, and it paid off. It was the right thing for us to do. It turned the foreign exchange from a side project into a legit entity of its own. We started touring because of it. We started doing live shows. We put a band together. The material was such that we could play this live with a band and that it all made sense. And so it was a pivotal moment in the history of the group. And as such, it needed to happen, of course. But we did know that there was a little bit of risk involved. But risk is it's our job. It's almost like I almost see it as a responsibility of an artist to not choose the easy path, right? So I think we both felt that this was the right thing to do, and history proved us right, of course, but we didn't know that at the time per se.
And I like, and like, we both would agree that not to think any lesser of Fonte as a vocalist, because I mean, it it's lesser in terms of, the ability of other artists, but which is not what it's all about. But not only that, and you're saying he was raw. He kind of with his the harmonies and the layers of the vocals, and that was all just him. That was all
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
I mean, I never would have been able to tell the difference. I mean, the fact that it spoke to me from a melodic sense in a
yeah,
major way, like sort of the Badu sort of level, because she's like that as well, very jazzy.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but that was all Fonte.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I remember when he sent me I Wanna Know, which is kind of the soul ballad, and the bridge has like 20 different versions of him, very much like how Marvin Gaye would double track himself, you know. And it was like, whoa, this guy is having fun, like exploring um like something that I think we've always recognized in each other is that we both have a thirst, a hunger to go all the way. I have that in a musical sense, and he certainly does too, and in a vocal sense. And I think that was is always what bound us together is that we have a desire to go all the way. And this was certainly the first album where I realized thinking like, yeah, this is something that is timeless. Like this is not there's no expiration date to this. This is something that in 20 years, God willing, people will still be able to enjoy. I didn't feel that way about Connected at the time because that Connected very much felt like a product of its time. Um, and it still holds up really well. If you listen to Connected today, it still holds up. But I would argue that Leave It All Behind is like a timeless work that sort of is more timeless and universal. And as such, we were both really, really, really proud of it, and it informed everything we did after that. Of course, like authenticity, love and flying colors, like everything that came afterwards. Like, okay, you guys like experiments. Well, here we go, and we took that almost as a challenge, right? Of like, okay, you guys like this. Let's see if you like this. So it became kind of the raison d'etre, the reason of existence for the foreign exchange was to push to keep experimenting, to keep adding new things. It almost became a point of pride for us to never do the same thing twice, but to keep pushing, you know, and we have.
So your BBE label were in agreement with you guys changing your sound in such a drastic way.
Well, they were, but we that was the first album we actually released ourselves. We re-released "Leave It All Behind" was also the start of the Foreign Exchange Music label. I think BBE was fine with it. They certainly heard the record. I remember meeting up with Eddie at BBE, and he liked it. And I think they would have put it out, but I think at that point there was sort of a feeling of like we've learned enough to maybe do this on our own now. Um, Probably a very ballsy move. I don't really remember why we felt that way, because it's kind of there was a lot of hubris, maybe a little bit brazen. But at some point we decided like if we can just find a distributor that can press these things up for us, that's really all we need. We need somebody that can still put these in stores, but that's more what a distributor does. Like we can sort of try to do the label part of it, which is kind of market and promote and whatnot. We can maybe do that ourselves, and if we do, and it becomes a success, like it will yield more for us, you know. So that's literally also the year that we founded our own label. Um, so massive point of pride for us was like, here we are, we're coming out with something really, you know, new, and we're doing it our own on our own label. Again, a lot could have gone wrong. This could have been a conversation where we be talking about why all of that didn't work out, you know, but luckily it did, and especially when we were Grammy nominated for this record and it was on our own label, it was like, okay, so that told us everything that we needed to know, you know, that we could do this ourselves and be beholden to nobody. I think BBE would have gone along with it. Like to their credit, they were sophisticated. They understood music. They would have gone along with it. Somebody might have said like, "Are you sure?" or somebody like that, but I think they would have gone along with it. But I think we were meant to do it ourselves, and we did a good job of it.
Mm, that's amazing. What a story. So obviously your record label, and I mean, what would be obviously you want to, as an independent label, you want to own your own music, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's your sort of views on that? Because you
Well,
what Prince fought for most of his
listen,
career, right?
we were all going back full circle. Yep, like we had definitely paid attention to what Prince was saying. The music industry was changing really, really quickly. Connected came out. We were still one leg in the traditional music business of like CDs in stores. And by the time Leave It All Behind comes out, there's this new thing called downloads, iTunes. So streaming wasn't quite a thing yet, but people were downloading music and still paying for it. That's largely a thing of the past in 2024, but the music industry landscape was rapidly changing. And we were trying to navigate like these changes in a way that was organic to us. We just wanted to meet our fans where they were. So we quickly just realized that if we want to be the masters of our own destiny, we need to own our own masters. So the recordings of our music, but also the copyrights of it, the publishing rights to it. So starting at that moment, we owned our own music, we owned our own rights to it, and that allowed us to be able to say yes to any opportunity that came our way that made sense to us, that felt authentic, organic, whatnot. So yeah, that was truly informed by one what we had kind of heard Prince say, but more so that the music industry was rapidly changing. There was a move from major label climate to independent, and we just wanted to be able to again sort of control, for better or for worse. We wanted to be in control, and we knew, if you want to be in the top five, you need a major label at your back with a big bag of money. So we knew that what we did would keep certain doors closed to us, but would open other doors that were much more important to us, which is like, again, authenticity, being in control of our own destiny. We knew that we were not going to be top 40 artists. We knew that we wouldn't get a ton of radio play because radio was very segmented in the sense of like, you got to be either this or you got to be that. And if you're both, you don't fit. So we kind of knew like, okay, radio, not a super big deal to us. We find people directly. We want to build up relationships with the people that like our music, one on one, direct to consumer, whatever you want to call it. And social media was developing in a way that it would let us do that. So we had a very dedicated fan base on the early versions of Twitter, Facebook, and we literally were making relationships with our fans one on one. No label, no budgets. We were funding all of this stuff out of our own pockets. We never had any outside funding. We put our own money on the table, and we risked our own money. But we knew that if we would do that, we would never have to ask anybody for permission for anything ever again. So from that day on, we've always funded our own releases because we just didn't want to be beholden to anybody else anymore. You know, I have no bad things to say about BBE. We wouldn't be here today without them. They did a really, really great job with Connected. They made sure that we were in Australia, like for God's sakes, right? So they did an amazing job. They believed in us. They treated us well. Always were transparent in terms of the business. So, but to do this yourself, is a totally a different thing altogether. And while it's not for everybody, because you never sleep again if you you know, like we did all of the music, but then also had to sell it. So you know, it came at a cost in that sense, but it was all worth it.
And it's totally respectable as well. I mean, so just briefly, just on that. So, I mean, as an owner of co-owner of a record label, as you are, seeing the transition and the changes in, you know, from CDs to downloads to streaming to social media. I mean, how do you approach that?
I
Like,
mean,
and so rapidly.
you hang on and you just try to, like, it's, there's no way that you can. It went so fast, and it's still going so fast, that there's really no way that you can really keep up other than one, meeting your fans where they are. So our fans went from largely physical vinyl and CDs to largely downloads to now 90% streaming, which obviously, from an income perspective, is a massive cut that over the years we had to sustain. How do we do that is largely by being modest, not doing anything frivolous, never went beyond what I think we could sustain. But I'm not gonna lie, the streaming model is extremely difficult for artists because there's just not the type of income that can truly sustain you. Now we are really lucky. We have a 20-year-old catalog at this point with, you know, as many as 25 albums between the two of us. So our strength right now is in numbers. But if I were talking to you right now and you're like a new and up and coming artist, I wouldn't know what to tell you. I'll be very honest with you. Other than that, I would say that you have to really, really, really love this, and then hopefully it work out. But as I often say, the reward right now is purely in the process. There's no real financial gain that you can truly expect. There are still exceptions to that rule, of course. There's still people making a lot of money in music, but those are far and few between. And you have to love it to a point where you just have to do it no matter what. And that certainly goes for us. Like we're still really, really hungry. We're still curious to see what the next track sounds like. And the music industry is gonna keep changing. And we have no control over that. The only thing that we can control is the quality of our product, of our music, and that we are fiercely protective over. But we have zero control over the music industry. The only thing that we find important is that, look, if our fans are streaming, we'll have our shit up for streaming. If our fans want to download, you know, we'll have it up for download. We never were those artists that protested streaming, although there's a lot of reason why you could. There are a lot of artists that took their music off of Spotify, and because it is unfair. It is unfair. But we always felt that we, regardless, wanted to meet our fans where they are. And a lot of them love using Spotify or Apple Music, or so we thought it didn't make sense to punish our fans for some of the unfairness in the music industry. You know, so knowingly and willingly, all of our stuff is available on all the streamers, and hopefully it will work out at the end. But yeah, we have no control over that part. So there's really no way that you can navigate that other than by not growing too big for your bridges, if that makes sense. Like we've always been we've never done anything frivolous. We've never done $100,000 music videos. Like we've always funded our own stuff ourselves, and we kept it reasonable. We made sure that if we ever lost our shirt, that it wouldn't be the end of us. So that meant that there were certain things that we couldn't do. Um, but if you're smart and if you're modest and if you don't grow beyond your means, that's how we've been able to sustain it, and by just having a lot of music out, you know. But yeah, if you're coming into the industry right now as a, like, let's say we would release Connected in 2024, like I don't know that we could make a career out of it. Like, I'll be very honest with you, you know. So there's up and downsides to it. I love streaming as a technology because if you're in Japan right now, you can find all of our stuff, or in Brazil, or in Australia, or in New Zealand, or anywhere. You can find all of our stuff directly. But um, the disruptive side of the technology, knowing that Spotify is not a music company, Spotify is a tech company, is very different. They're not a music company. Their primary objective is the technology. So as long as you know that, as long as you're not naive about what's going on, Spotify is the Uber of music, right? So it was designed to jump into a hole that the music industry left by initially fighting uh, digital. You know, you remember Metallica fighting Napster and stuff like that, which, looking back, was an ill-advised move. Everybody agrees on that now, even they do. You know, but at the time, it was kind of a wild west, and it still sort of is, right? So it's a difficult one to navigate, and it doesn't have anything to do with music, ironically, and maybe it never has. But yeah, the only thing that you can control right nowadays is the quality of your product, of your music, and then we hope that that will be enough.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, obviously the consistency, try and adapt, and then just keep on bringing out premium quality music, and hopefully people will switch on and realize, oh, and just build your catalog. That's it, and you've got a body of work that can build respect. That's the thing. It's kind of similar to how my social media sort of build up kind of thing, but you build respect, and then you know I think
Yeah,
now with social media, that's just how a lot of artists have to approach it and take it into their own hands. I believe.
yeah.
They're not going to get much support elsewhere, really.
Reputation is all, right? That's really it. Like, if you have, like, we have a really really great reputation in the industry because we never sold out. We never did things that were not authentic, and that's, I'm getting a good feeling that's how you approach what you do. That's how we approach what we do. If your reputation is intact, like respect, um, sometimes that's more important than financial gain. Even though, of course, respect doesn't pay the rent, but there's something to be said for doing your business in a way that yields and earns respects and that gives respect to others. Um, I do believe that that will ultimately lead to other opportunities, right? Um, I believe in karma. I believe in empathy. I believe in all of those things, and I think the our music is informed by a lot of these principles too. So we have always decided that, look, if we are just us, that's going to have to be enough, for better or for worse. And it worked out for us. But I'll be very honest to tell you, that was also largely because we got started in an era where people still bought music at record stores, and that is no longer really the case. But I don't feel like really decrying that so much as that I just want to know. I just need to stay up on what the next move is so that I can anticipate it, quote unquote. There's no point in complaining about it, even though, again, those that do have have every right, because these rates are not fair, and artists are being squeezed. The same is happening in TV with the Netflixes and the Hulus, and the creators are getting absolutely squeezed, and the the money is not going to the people making the art. Let's just call it what it is. That's not right. That has to change. But I am not the type of person to, like, I still want to meet our fans where they are. I'm not the type of person to want to just not do music because that is the case. So we just try to navigate it. And it's worked out so far, but it's becoming more difficult with every day. And who knows what the next thing is, right? We don't really know what the next thing is, but there will always be a place for music. I know that. Music is still being used to sell most things that you are being sold. Um, Music is still being used in film and TV to create emotional connections with people. So music will always exist. It's just how it's being exploited, quote unquote, is going to keep changing, and we'll see what it does. But I think an added benefit of us being in control and being owners of our work is that it's a little bit easier for us to change with the tide, quote unquote.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, look, well, with Leave It All Behind, that was actually the first album of yours that I bought. So I had the physical CD. I had it on, I downloaded it, bought it off iTunes, had it on my iPod. So, that obviously today, I've only actually been using Spotify for the last 3 or 4 years because
Uh-huh.
I was all like, no, I'm going to buy the music, whether it's on iTunes or whatever, or the physical CD. That was my premise. But when I found, because I was a bit of a gamer back in the day, I used to play a lot of Final Fantasy. So
Nice.
the composer of those games, for the first maybe 10 games, his name is Nobuo Uematsu. He's a Japanese, self-taught. He loves, like, look at his history. He loves all Zeppelin, Deep Purple, all these legends. But then what he did, going from the chip tune through to PlayStation and brought in all the sounds, like he was all self-taught, influential. But to buy his stuff was like hundreds of bucks on
Yeah,
Amazon
yeah,
and all that stuff. And then 2 or 3 years ago, when I found it all on Spotify,
yeah,
I said, okay, I'm a fan now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and that, yeah,
Hidden beach stuff, all the unwrapped hidden beach stuff is on there. I was like,
yeah,
ah, it's not in the
yeah.
CDs. They don't sell them here, really. You gotta buy them from overseas. That's
And
what
it
I'm
is
saying.
it is amazing, right? And as a user, I love Spotify because there's stuff on there, and I'm just like that's why I'm never gonna be. I can't be hypocritical. I can't be a user of the platform and at the same time be an artist who's in the streets, protesting it. I can't. I can't. I'm also a child of this current time, and some of these technological advances benefit me as a music lover. Others don't, but I like that if I get in the car and I have a long drive, I can pull up most of the music that I love and listen to it, and I like that a lot about it. Of course, there's a problem with how it's being compensated, but there's no way that it works, right? A streaming model can't automatically yield money. If you pay $10 a month for Spotify, that that's kind of, it says it all, right? That only goes so far, but that's just where the technology has brought us. And I think, if I'm very honest, also when I was listening to music in the late '90s, at the height of piracy, people kind of decided that music was free, right? They would download everything illegally, and they were basically like, I don't care, music is free. So in many ways, like, it's kind of a miracle that we were able to move past that people pay subscription, they pay for Spotify, they pay for stuff. So it's not an unwillingness from people to pay for it. It's just the model can't support thousands of artists when you only pay $10 a month. But it can be much more expensive because then you can't afford it. So where is that going to go? Like, nobody knows, but yeah, I enjoy Spotify when I take my little walk. And like the other day, I was like, I bet this like I love the Beach Boys. I'm a massive Beach Boys fan. Uh, and I was like the other day, I bet the Holland album by the Beach Boys is not on Spotify. Right there. Within a second, I found it, and I was taking my walk, and I listened to "Sail On Sailor," which is and I was just like, you know what? Yeah, this is amazing. And I felt a little bit like, how do I even like this? But I love it, So it is what it is. We're here now. These technology. It's the same with Hulu. Like I love being able to whip up any TV show that I, want. And I know that these people are not getting paid the way they should, but it is what it is.
It's so strange because, and let you say, the artists obviously are the ones that are going to struggle, but hopefully something, because there's benefits, but then there's negativities. But hopefully there can be some. But then you think about AI now. I mean, if you have heard about Timberland, is like for that Suno company,
Yeah.
is what, like an ambassador or something. I mean, what's that going to mean for the future of music? I mean,
I really don't know, but it's not going to be good.
How much is it going to advance? You're not going to tell the difference.
You're not going to be able to tell the difference. Like I do think when I look at who I'm a fan of, it's not just their music, it's also the person behind, it's the human behind the music. But let's say you're just listening to music at work through a radio and you just got top 40 on all day just to help with, you're not going to care if that's a real person, you know what I mean, or if that's AI. So that is kind of what scares me a little bit, is like sort of the mass consumption of musical wallpaper, if you will. That might at some point all be AI created stuff because nobody would know the difference. Now, artists like us, we're kind of in a niche. We have built our fan base, like not only on our music, but certainly on our personalities. I don't think that will ever go away. But yeah, art, like the effect of AI on art is going to be really, it's going to be probably be pretty intense.
It's
And
scary.
it
Can,
is a
can,
little scary.
can you imagine? I mean, not okay. You guys aren't aiming to be on the charts, but there's some that are, right? And can you imagine competing, being an artist competing on the charts for an AI with an AI?
I have a funny story about that. So I just released a new album. It's called Terra Firma. Um, it was creeping up the iTunes chart. Number 6, number 5, number 4, number 3. I was like, whoa. Number 2 was actually an AI album. It was an album of soul covers. And that was the first time that I was more or less directly competing with an album that was created by AI. And it was really interesting. I was like, we'll see what happens. The AI won, of course. I never got past it. Which is not the point of the story, but the point of the story is like it was the first time that I was in the marketplace with something that was literally AI created, and it was it's an album of soul covers. Like it's all covers. It's not new songs, but it's executed by AI. It's not a real singer. It's not a real. So yeah, that's happening right now. And you know what? A lot of people are not going to be able to tell the difference, and that's not their fault. Um, I don't know how to feel about it. I think it's what scares me more is like drones with bombs and shit and AI. You know what I mean? Like that's the shit that truly scares me. Like I think the music, yeah, that's going to be a thing, and then I think it will kind of be old again. I don't know. I think that will be a fad, but like the AI that really is going to be interesting is like in the military and shit like that, and that is kind of that's obviously beyond the scope of this conversation, but that is really what truly scares me.
Clone Wars, draw the.
Yeah, man, like that. Who knows what is gonna happen with that shit? Like you can just, I can be like, look, I'm gonna send a drone to Australia right now. You know what I mean? I don't, that is gonna be really like warfare with AI. Ugh. And the political, you won't know who said what at some point, right? Because I can say like, oh, Ed said this and this and that, and here's the video. Now you never said it, but like, how are we gonna know the difference? Like, that's gonna be tricky shit. And the music, I think, and the art, I think that's just, they said the same thing when autotune came out. They were like, "Oh, this is the end of music." In fact, they said that when the first synthesizer was like, "Oh, this is the end of music." They even said it about the first electric guitar. Like, it's like, all these things have a way of, yeah, it's gonna be new ground, but they have a way of working out, quote unquote, I think,
Mm.
so, but yeah, ask me again in 20 years, right? We
But
don't know.
there's positives and there's benefits, because I did interview a gentleman like who's going through mental health, who had been going through mental health issues, and he no musical background, but he used Suno to as a form of therapy to create
Yeah,
his own music, and wrote the lyrics, and it meant something to him. He could, as a form of expression, and I can understand that as a musician.
absolutely.
For him who's not a musician, it means something, so I can respect that. It's a weird thing, hey. So there are some benefits, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Exactly. The jury's still out on that one, but yeah, I'm, I tend to be an optimist against all odds, so I gotta think that there'll be some good in it, and that we find a way to deal with the bad, as a society, as a world, people. Um, but yeah, we don't really know yet. We're so early, and yet it's going to be super fast. Like, I think this is going to really hit us over the next few years, like a ton of like, all of a sudden. You can kind of already see it now, where it's like, it's going to come very, very, very fast. And it's going to have a lot of effects. And again, some of it is not even music, but the way these supercomputers, the way they need power, that is kind of crazy. Like, the sustainability of it. Like, I don't really know where that's going to go, but it's gonna happen really fast. And I think the best we can do is be humans about it, and hopefully we'll be able to use some of that to our advantage. You know what I mean? I might be a singer in 5 years thanks to AI. You know what I mean? I might just have an incredible voice. Who knows? I mean, I really don't. I really don't know, man. It's
Mm.
gonna it's gonna be interesting about that example that you're saying about, what if this leads for some people to be able to express themselves? And yeah, it might not be them playing and singing, but even that, I would say, is still the product of a human soul. So maybe that's the good side of it, that it will give people a chance to get rid of some stuff. And maybe there's still value in that, right? And it's like, maybe, okay, you didn't sing it, but you still sparked the expression. I'm willing to accept that, but we'll have to see.
Yes. So okay, now just so we know foreign exchange stuff. So I mean, I'd love to see some more funk from you, because obviously your
Yeah.
background, you're P Funk all the way, Prince, all these guys.
Yes.
Took
Yes.
it to the top. I mean, man, that's very Rick James inspired, I'm sure.
Yes. Literally.
I could hear it like a mile away, but I love it, and that just shows. I mean, both of your influences coming through. Fonte's vocals is just also. I can hear Steve Arrington.
Steve
I hear
Arrington. He was literally going for Steve Arrington of Slave. Yeah, he was like, that was literally like when he does the take it to the top, like that, like he was literally embodying Steve. Yep. That's a amazing reference. Yeah, you got it completely.
mm, I'd
And
love
that
to.
album for us was kind of in general a tribute to bands that we love. Like we kind of had a loose sort of feel of like Chic, um, stuff like that, but we wanted to just have fun. That album was more kind of an album to really have fun. Like, we're always real serious, and that was a time where we just wanted to have fun and let loose a little bit. And so you had stuff like Asking for a Friend, where Fonte is embodying like a faux English accent house singer, kind of, like it was just us having, just clowning a little bit. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, but then your solo stuff. So your Shibuya album and Soweto. So you got for these city themes and blew my mind again because this is to me it's this Nicolay next level, bringing in dance elements, in the synth, of taking another level altogether as well, of discovery for yourself, expression. Tell me, like Shibuya, I love in particular because this is it to me. It came across as your view of your experience potentially going to Shibuya. I'm not sure, but going to Japan. Can you just
Yep.
explain to me that the process of writing that album?
Yeah, I it's literally that, man. Like, and this was also something that ironically kind of sparked the Leave It All Behind turnaround. But I went to Japan in 2006 on a trip for a gig, and it just really blew my mind. The experience was just mind altering in many ways, just culturally and otherwise. Like, it just blew my mind open, and that's really the moment that I decided, like, I gotta not let, like, I can't put myself in these boxes anymore. So when I came home, at the end of '06 is when we started Leave It All Behind. So Shibuya and Leave It All Behind are kind of very connected in the sense that I did them at the same time. So in a lot of ways, Shibuya is like kind of like almost a compendium piece to Leave It All Behind, if you will. But just, the City Lights concept just allows me to be a little bit more experimental even. I really wanted to include some dance elements, also some fusion, some mild fusion elements, electronica. Um, so I really I thought it would be cool if I did kind of like an audio postcard, if you will, where I didn't so much as I wanted to make sure that I wasn't appropriating any kind of culture as my own or even musically. So it's not necessarily like the music is Japanese influenced, although there's some mild Asian vibes, if you will, in there. But I wanted to make sure that it was more kind of my tribute to the experience that I had, and so I did that again with Soweto, which was literally inspired by a trip to South Africa that we had a show in Johannesburg with the Foreign Exchange in 2014. And again, Soweto is kind of my tribute to Johannesburg in my own way. So again, like very uh, careful not to appropriate or otherwise like take ownership of things that aren't mine, but just give my tribute, my love letters, if you will, to Tokyo and Johannesburg, respectively. So it just allows for me to be a little bit more experimental, as these are largely instrumental albums, although there's some vocal elements to them. And it's just me really having fun with synthesizers, while not, like, no synthesizers were hurt in the making of this album. But other than that, I just love to do these because they're, and again, I'll probably do another one at some point. I gotta travel somewhere. I gotta come to Australia, for instance, and do a something like that. But I really like the concept of going somewhere that is truly a different world, quote unquote, and then processing those feelings and experiences through music.
And I love it. So the expression, experimentation, you're expanding your capabilities, what you can do, and the creativity. It's there. So, and that can be inspirational, especially for someone that comes upon it in the streaming world, and not everything has to be cookie cutter pop. You know.
Exactly. Well, and the fun thing is, like, every now and then I hear from somebody and they're like, man, I was in Tokyo and I put it on. I was walking around and I was listening to the Shibuya album and it all makes sense. Like, I totally get it. Like, it's like it all fell into place for them. You know what I mean? And those are really fun messages to get when somebody is like listening to the music that I created 20 years ago almost, directly influenced by my experiences there, and somebody's walking around there with that as kind of their audio guide. That's just a lot of fun to me, because I think again, like how we talked about it a bunch now, but music is human expression. It's something that connects us together. And so anytime somebody has a meaningful experience with the music that I created, um, that is kind of really the only thing that I ever truly care about. Like, same as with the foreign exchange, we get a lot of people who are like, "Oh, we danced our first dance on our wedding to Take Off the Blues," or when my son was born, I was listening. You get all these moments where people make our music part of their lives, and that is the greatest honor to me. Like, and even with the Shibuya and the Soweto albums, which are not as well known as the foreign exchange stuff, but every now and then I get these messages, or even right now in this interview, somebody will tell me what those mean to them, and it's really like that is more important to me than anything else. Like, then I think just the when I think about who I was as a 20-year-old something when we first started this conversation and what I wanted out of music, I just wanted people to hear it and like it, and so now it's full circle 20 years later. That's still kind of the only thing I care about, is just to be able to reach people with music, because that, I think on a sort of philosophical level, I think about the planet. I think about us having to figure this out together, going forward. And I think music can play a part in people coming together, And I know that sounds very esoteric, but I really believe in that. I really believe that that can be a bridge to people from all different kind of backgrounds. So the traveling part of it just kind of felt to me like, wow, like I can sort of send these audio postcards. That's why a lot of these songs are kind of named after particular places in those respective areas, and in on the Soweto album, there's some Swahili and some Zulu language names in there, and that is just kind of my way of paying respect and giving something back to people that have given us so much, you know.
Yeah, and you gotta. I'm sure you would agree as well. I mean, in the pop world, a lot of people, that's all they listen to. What's in the pop charts, um, it can determine how they act and influence them who they are. But to be a respectable person, in a lot of ways, I don't mean to say that. I mean, in a disrespectful way, but this kind of music is sort of much more complex. You know, um, it's positive, and we can have such a detailed conversation about what we're experiencing here on the musical level.
Mm-hmm.
There's a maturity. There's a
Yeah,
maturity to it. Would you say?
yeah,
I mean, and obviously, I mean, hip hop has its place, definitely, and we both respect that. Obviously, more so you're a hip hop producer. I mean, and let's say you sort of started off your career there, but what would you say with that? I mean, the fact that, and with Fonte, I mean, I'm not doubting his talent as a hip hop artist. I mean, as a rapper, his flow. I mean, he's intelligent. Like what he speaks about, it's very stimulating, and he's on the beat. But now seeing him as a musician, as actual, now maybe technically rappers are musicians these days. I don't know. Anyway, but but
probably.
as a vocalist, more respect. I have to say, as a musician, way more respect, and to see how he came off raw from Leave It All Behind. He's coming out with his own vocals, like I said, the layers and all that, and what you've created with him since then. I have so much more respect, in a sense. So, like with you as well, with your solo stuff, total different. Never would have imagined that in 2004 with Connected.
Like,
So you're
no,
speaking to a different audience here.
yeah,
So
yeah,
what would
yeah.
you say are of that?
Well, I think I know that I would have never expected that in 2004 either. That's the funny thing. Like I know that I'm the maker of it, but we're kind of in the same position where in 2004 that train just started going, and ever since I've just sort of tried to hold on to it and not fall off. And I think the opportunity that I saw, I just wanted to do right by the opportunity that I was given, by building up an audience, by being successful early on in my career with Connected. I just wanted to not take that for granted. And so ever since, both Fonte and I have kind of almost feverishly been creating music to stay on that train. And I think that if I'm very honest with you, at that time I thought, maybe two, three albums, something like. I really had no real clue how far we were going to take it, and we are both really just driven by music. Like, it sounds really, really simple, but we're the same people as we were 20 years ago, and we have just been given a massive opportunity, and ever since we've just been having fun with it, explored ourselves, um, allowed for our influences, our childhood memories, our childhood experiences with music to inform who we are. At times we've been more this, at times we've been more that. But we've always had a lot of time being extremely kind of fluid in our music making. Like, for instance, Authenticity was more kind of what you would call our singer-songwriter album, where we were listening to things like Neil Young and Nick Drake and stuff like that. And so yeah, we've just been really, really blessed with a listening audience, and I think we've always taken it so seriously that we just never wanted to sit still. And at this point, I'm talking to you, and gosh, I've lost count of how many albums between us. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's six or so FE albums. I probably have done 10 or so solo albums. Fonte has done a bunch. Fonte has done Little Brother. We've done other groups, you know what I mean? So I think we always just wanted to make sure that we were worth the opportunity that we were given. And so that's the bottom line of it for me, is that, like, I never wanted to sit still, and we just have so much fun with it. And the more different things we do, the more fun it is. Like that Soweto album or the Shibuya album. It's just so much fun to come up with a concept that is, this is what it is. And then you do the music and you start thinking about artwork and you start thinking about photography and look and feel, and playing around with concepts is so much fun. Like, it kind of goes much further than the music. Obviously, it starts with the music, but um, creating albums is so much fun. It's something that we both grew up, and you did too, obviously, listening to albums. Nowadays, you have a little bit more of a playlisting culture where people pick a song from here and a song from there, but I grew up on albums as kind of a collection of songs that said something about where the artist was at that moment in time. Like, I keep going back to Sign of the Times, the Prince album from '87, and how much impact that had on me as a 13-year-old. Um, and learning what an album can be. Like, what is an album? How do you go from A to Z? Like, I think that I'm still not bored with that concept. I'm still curious what music will do tomorrow. So it's I think the beauty of music is that it never is stagnant, and that there's still so much that I would like to do. Even after all these years, even after doing so many, I'm still sort of looking at what can I do next? Can I do some classical music at some point? Can I compose, like, something that is more, I scored a film last year for ESPN that was kind of more, that asked for more, a little bit more of a traditional slash classical approach that allowed me to really tap into a lot of the training that I had at university. So I feel there's still a lot that I could do that I haven't even explored yet. And at the same time, we've come so much further than I think either one of us would have thought. And sometimes we talk about that, just the fact that we did. Like I remember doing Leave It All Behind, and I was really happy that there was a second Foreign Exchange album because, like I said, at first Foreign Exchange was a side project. So when there was a second album, I was like, "Oh my God, this is an incredible milestone!" And that was still early on in our career. So yeah, it's been remarkable, and I honestly can't wait what happens during the next 20 years. If God willing, we're given that opportunity. So I think music is still something that moves me every day, and that will continue to drive me. And as long as there's somebody listening, I'm gonna be supplying it. So that's kind of it's really interesting to see how far we've been able to take it. And I just look at that as a gift.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like similar to it's sort of like how I explained to you earlier about my social media. So it began out with that just 80s metal, Eddie Van Halen, all these dudes, Malmsteen, blues and hard rock. That was it for 5 years. But now I've built this community. I'm like, you know what? I know so much more. I have so much more. I can do whatever I want now, and the response is
Exactly.
so positive. So it seems like it's almost like what you and Fonte had. So you began with the hip hop, you connected with the hip hop, but then you both realized, you know what, we can do so much more with what we
Hmm.
have. We know, and like
Hmm.
Fonte, I can't find it on Spotify. His covers album he did with Zoe.
Oh
Fontico,
yeah, that's
he's,
legally is a little complicated, so that's not out yet.
that's why I
Yeah,
can't find it anymore. And
yeah,
back in the day, I obviously had it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
but, yeah, I don't anymore. I don't know what happened, but anyway, I lost a lot of stuff. Anyway, corrupted hard drives and all this. But anyway,
yep,
but that's what I'm saying. So obviously their influences because then Zoe on his solo album did something special from the Dude album, and I was like, what? Which isn't on Spotify at the moment.
hmm,
Which is obviously Rod Temperton wrote that song. Like I mean, that's what I'm saying. So the influences are coming through, and then they're singing Africa and Human, and Jimmy Jam and all this wrote that, and all the influences are coming through. So you're expanding on what you actually know, and I believe a lot of hip hop artists have that. I mean, look at Erica Badu. She was hip hop. She turned
yeah,
on. Look at her. She and her experimentation through her
yeah,
albums and changes in her sound, and um, it was such an experience, and like to expand on, and
yeah,
but she's got musicality, right? Not
yeah,
everyone, not every hip hop artist has that. So which and Fonte does have that. He can
yeah.
expand. So I think that's probably what you guys are doing right now, isn't it? You got so many influences. Hey, I got a platform. This is what I got, and it's authentic as well because you're not again you're not trying to conform to anything,
Right.
and
Yeah.
your family is just going to be open wide, isn't it?
Yeah, at this point, I think we've kind of, I'm not going to say schooled our fans because that sounds a little bit derogatory, but we have conditioned our fans to expect the unexpected at this point, and that's what's really fun. Like they've grown with us, and they know that whatever they're going to get from us is sometimes it's going to be not what they expected, but they also know that in itself can be a gift, right? So yeah, our fans are really have really grown with us, and that's amazing because they've really taken this journey with us, and some people, they're like, yo, bring it on. The more experimental the better. And I think even what you're saying about what you're doing, I think at some point you realize like, hey, I do this, so I can decide whatever it is that I want to do. And people tend to like authentic things. Like people tend to like people doing things authentically, and so at some point you realize like, well, I'm the one who's censoring myself, but I don't have to. You know, I can do whatever I want as long as it's coming from an organic place. And I think that's what's amazing about art and amazing about creation, is that you can be whoever you want, and that there's going to be somebody on this planet who will like what you do, you know, because you're putting passion in it, you're putting your experiences in it, your knowledge, your expertise, you know. So you know, we're having this conversation, and your site is called Live Guitar Solos. I've never played a single guitar solo in my life, you know what I mean? But I've listened to a million of them, so it's still, there's still, it can be anything that you want, you know what I mean? And I can do whatever I want, and that's kind of what is the beautiful thing about it, is that like the common denominator is the passion, is the love for music. For, you mentioned Rod Temperton, that's another one we can talk about for 2 hours, you know what I mean? Like, uh, did a lot of stuff for Michael Heatwave, obviously. um you know, like just the being a student of the craft, no matter if that's a guitar player or a music producer or a songwriter, the passion that you can feel for something that is done well, a certain excellence, you know, the passion that I can feel for so many different pieces of music. It can literally be anything, you know what I mean? Like that is what I still get excited about. Like I love so many different things, and I feel at this point that it's okay to love all of these different things. Like, yeah, you can't really put my taste in a box. um but I think it's supposed to be this way. I think we're supposed to love things as long as they're good, right? As long as they're great. It doesn't matter what it is. So I at this point I feel very comfortable just being who I am and liking what I love, you know. And when I was growing up, it was still like, oh, I like Slayer, so I can't like Toto, you know what I mean? Like, cause you're still sort of thinking in real. Now I'm just like, I love everything that has something of value for me. And that feels like part of being an adult. I think part of growing up is being comfortable in your skin, is being comfortable in finding out the person that you are and what you love. And then you realize like, oh wow, I love all these different things, you know. So and they're gonna, in my case, all find a way somehow into the music that I do. Absolutely. And maybe I'll start doing guitar solos now. You know, who knows?
Oh, or maybe just like Stevie did on the keyboard.
Well, I did. I'm lying. I did actually. What, there's one guitar solo that I ever played. It's on the Authenticity album. It's actually in the song Authenticity. Um, I play a guitar solo. So it's very rudimentary, but it you know, for the listeners, that yeah, and I that album has a lot of guitar in it because again, that was kind of our singer songwriter album. So yeah, I'm a very I'm a wide open dude, man. So who knows what's gonna be next? I really don't know, and I like not knowing. You know.
Mm. And look, just I know we've gone quite some time here, but you know, you
Double header.
mentioned Rod Temperton. You mentioned Rod Temperton. I have to go there just for a bit. So you and Fonte nearly released Star of a Story, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah,
Connected. Was it Connected?
yeah. We did. This that was a first attempt, I think, at us sort of realizing what we really wanted to do. But honestly, we just weren't ready yet. It wasn't good enough. Um, it's not an easy song to pull off because it's a very high vocal and it goes all the way in the chorus. And it's got a number of like I replayed the track. I liked what I did, but we weren't able to pull it off vocally at the time. So it's in default. Nobody will ever hear it because we would be very embarrassed. It's just not very good. Um, but it's an early example of like because we wanted that to do we wanted to do that for Connected. It would have been interesting if we did do it. I mean, again, we were not ready. We just didn't have the quality yet. But I do think it shows you that from early on we were trying to be a little bit more than just a hip hop group. You know what I mean? And every now and then I listen to it, and I'm like, man, it's a valiant attempt, but it's not much more than that. Uh, and then I you know that should never be heard by like and let the record reflect that it like because like you saw with Prince dying and Prince they taking everything from the vault and we're getting all of it, and as a fan I can't lie, I love it, but I don't want that like keep these grubby hands out of this computer, dog. Like that shit needs to not like I need to leave a will to make sure that all my half-assed attempts and all my like I don't ever want anybody to hear that shit. And so yeah, the Star of a Story is one of those. Like it's one of our favorite songs, and we couldn't go out like we couldn't do it.
I mean, who was singing? Fonte?
Fonte is one of the voices, and Frank, I think it was Frank Ford. He's on "Be All Right" on the Connected album. He sings the song "I Got a Feeling." I think it was him, and I think it was the two of them together. And man, it just wasn't quite there. It just wasn't quite there.
Falsettos, right? The falsettos.
Yeah, the fall be all through the night, stay where they become bright. Yeah, it that whole song is falsetto, and again, it was a valid attempt, but it was not good.
Okay, so that's the vocals, but what about your contribution?
I really pretty
How'd
much
you
did
how'd you approach it? Was it in any different to the original?
um the drums are a little bit more pronounced. I really did that like I really replayed the Rhodes and the all that stuff like the
What about
drums and the
what about
bass.
what about the intro?
Yeah, I
That
did the
sort
whole
of long
intro.
intro.
I recreated the whole intro with all the and all the and then the drums kick in. The drum and bass are a little bit more pronounced than on the original, but it's fairly true to the original. And then halfway in, I did like a like how For Hero will sometimes do a cover and they just flip it up. Like it at some point it goes to more like a dancey part. That was ill conceived because it doesn't make sense. So again, the effort was there, and I know with every word I said, people get more curious. So I gotta be careful. But it really wasn't. It wasn't our time yet, and that is such a magical song that we both love so much that we just we're not ready really to do it justice. Maybe one day we will, because we
If
do
it
like
worked,
playing covers.
like if it worked out, do you think it would have been it would have fit with Connected or been like sort of maybe a precursor to Leave It All Behind, sort of that direction?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't think it would have fit, but that's with the knowledge of hindsight. Um, I think it would have fit if we did a good job. Like, if we let's say we would be able to pull it off, then all these things change, right? And then maybe it would have been a slightly different album. The album as it is today, it doesn't fit on it. But I think again in the scenario that cover would have worked out. We also talked about doing Natalie Cole, doing La Costa by Natalie Cole. We never actually tried that one, but over the years we've done some covers, including this year we did Sade. I Couldn't Love You More. We did that one this year. So I think at this point we kind of know that we got what it takes. At the time, I mean, I think you know what Connected is it's hard for me to think about Connected as any other way than it is, because that's just how it ended up being. So I gotta think it was meant to be what it is. Um, I just think that we have since then gotten so much better, but it is a nice window into our early ambition. So I think it does say something about us already, even back then, kind of eyeing a little bit of a different sort of thing. So I think that definitely says something about where we were at the time. Um, we've also we attempted a Radiohead cover at some point. I'm trying to think. Um,
I love Radiohead. I've seen them live
yeah,
in Australia like years ago.
massive fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think was it Plastic Green Trees or something? I forgot. No, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, we did a Radiohead cover. That didn't we didn't finish that one. Sometimes we bite off more than we can chew, and it stays on the computer here, and then we get to laugh about it every now and then, with a beer.
And what about Prince covering "Creep" at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, amazing. I liked when Prince started doing covers because, and it's the same when he did that Foo Fighters song, and it was like, whoa, like he's singing the shit out of that one, like as though he wrote it, And of course, Prince started when he was a teenager, was doing Earth, Wind and Fire covers and stuff. So yeah, when Prince started doing covers, it was really interesting because he kind of really didn't up until that point, and that year that he did Coachella and the Super Bowl and he did Creep and he did the Foo Fighters song, like it was like a new version of him and some mean guitar playing on both of those. Like he was playing the light blue Strat at the time, and I think he had an orange one too. But he went back to the Strat for a little bit. Like I don't know if you remember this, but he came out, because he always had his own guitars. He His main guitar was always the Hohner, the Mad Cat, and then of course he had the cymbal guitars and stuff. And then in the early 2000s, he just went to the regular Stratocaster, but it was fun because it was still his sound. Like he still got those wails out of it, And then later on, of course, he went to the I think it was Epiphones that he went to, but yeah, he's somebody whose his choice of guitars would always fascinate me because he could have any guitar that he wanted. So when he started playing the regular Strats, I was like, whoa, like that fascinated me. And
And the Telecaster as well.
yeah, I love his work on the Telecaster. Like I've always loved the Telecaster. Like Bruce Springsteen used the Telecaster, and I like that sort of. It's a more aggressive, sort of more trebly sound, and like all of those funk parts that Prince used to do were all Teles, right? And then yeah, I mean he's just a very versatile guitar player, and I even like his acoustic playing. He did the Musicology little TV special where it's just a half an hour of him with a Takamine, like an acoustic guitar. It's amazing, and yeah, I love all these different sort of personalities of his that came out over the years, But he he went back to sort of a lot of guitar playing, like at the last sort of years of his life when he played with the all female band with Third Eye Girl, and like he would do these slow down, like he did a slow down Let's Go Crazy that was almost like stoner rock, like where they did the boom boom doo 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 doo, like they half timed it. Man, those guitar sounds during those years, like incredible. And it was really just him and a couple of little boss pedals. Like it wasn't any. I think he had a specific. I think he had what his amps were pretty specific, but he would always just have a little circle of boss pedals, and just all in the fingers, man, all in the fingers.
It was, and no, there's a video of him playing a cover of "Whole Lot of Love," I think, with Nikki. What's her name? Nikki. I forgot her name. One of his live shows, but I mean, just shows his appreciation for so much more. But the funny thing, I don't know if you're sort of obviously Timbaland made Until the End of the Time, that beat with JT, Prince Heavy,
Yeah,
drum beat, and the whole track really. And then he actually made a song. I can't remember the name of the song, which is sort of like it was like they're like imitating him, but then he did an imitation of that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
imitation, like a
Well, and
tribute. So
the same
and
happened with
like it sounded
yeah,
like Pharrell.
yeah. And there was a time when D'Angelo was really influential on Prince, and he started doing almost kind of neo soul stuff, where it was like, wait a minute, like who is influencing who, you know? So I really that was really interesting to see that somebody who's had such an influence on the next generation that he hears that. Like he would do stuff with Q-Tip, and it's like, whoa, like what how interesting that somebody still has their eye on what is next and feels compelled to have some sort of response. You know what I mean? Like I know that he really loved what D'Angelo was doing, but there was also some feelings of like, yo, like you're kind of doing me, but I'm doing like what that. Like Prince was super competitive, like to a point where sometimes it was a little bit, like wait, like does he like this or does he hate this, But then you heard the Rainbow Children album, and it was like, oh wow, like he's kind of doing neo soul, but in his own way. But you heard a lot of like Muse to the Pharaoh, like the drum beats. It's like kind of what Questlove would do. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, very
Yeah,
cool. Yeah.
but funky. I mean,
Yeah.
Rainbow. I mean, the live versions were just out of this world
Have you
of
seen
that track.
Prince live ever or no?
I did. I've seen him twice. Yeah, I did see
Yeah.
him for the musicology tour, and
Yeah.
also the 3121. He came out here as well. That was the last
Yeah.
time I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. I've seen him a
Amazing. And
couple
within the round,
times. And,
actually, the second was in the round. The first one he came with past the piece. What's his name? The sax
oh, with Maceo. Yeah. Maceo
Maceo.
Parker.
He
Yeah.
was in the band. So with Rhonda and on the bass and John Blackwell.
Yeah. And a
Both
homegirl of mine from
um,
Holland, Candy Dofer, like she was with him at the time. She's
yeah.
an acquaintance
Man,
of mine.
he was just out of this. When he went on to be a drummer for Justin Timberlake as well,
Yeah.
and Cameo as well. He was
Yep.
drumming for them. What a legend! Actually, rest in peace to him as well. But for that musicology tour, he came out in the behind the merch table desk. I said, "Oh, can you sign this?" I actually had his poster to sign.
Wow.
His attitude was like, "Oh." Then he saw it was him. He's like, "Oh yeah, oh." Yeah,
That's
you couldn't
crazy.
believe I had his actual poster there, so to sign. So because I was blown away by his skill and
Yeah, he's
his
one of the best drummers that Prince had. Just incredible musicality and so fluid. Not like all of it was always on point, but he was always like the dude seemed like he had four arms, like real, like
and
incredible hi-hat
acrobatic
work. Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah. I saw John Blackwell with Prince, and last time I saw him was actually with Fonte. Fonte and I went to see Prince in I think it was 2013, and he was doing kind of the hits show, and it was incredible. Shaka Khan opened up for him, and so that was the first time that Fonte ever saw Prince, and he was pretty blown away. I'd seen him a few times before that in Holland, but this was in North Carolina, and it was amazing. But you just knew you were in the presence of an otherworldly being, right? Like it's just the electricity was just pretty incredible. And I've only felt that a couple of times with people that I've seen live. Like I saw D'Angelo live a couple of times, and that was pretty close. Like he was incredible.
Mm. I would love to see. I've seen Erica Badu's come out here. I don't believe D'Angelo has ever been to Australia, to be honest. But Badu's been out, and that was like a dream come true to see
Yeah,
her twice. Both concerts completely different. Like
yeah,
just he's always pushing the boundaries.
yeah, yeah. True artist.
Mm.
True, and that's what I love about people like her and others. That it's like yeah, they go out and they take risks, and sometimes it might not work out great, and other times like that's where the true magic is, right? These people that are kind of on a high wire, right, with no net, and just so feeling it so much that they just like they embody music. And I always admire that. Like like, yeah, I like to see the hits or whatever, but I'd much rather see somebody kind of really going there. You know what I mean? And yeah, Badu is great. I've seen Badu a few times. But like seeing Prince has been kind of like the real highlight of it, especially now that he's no longer with us. You just realize like, wow, we were alive when Prince was alive. Like it's incredible, right? Like you
Feel honored
never
that I
see.
see him live, you know,
Yeah,
with my own eyes, you know.
yeah,
Um, it's funny because I've got snippets of the first concert, but I've seen videos on YouTube now that everything's available on YouTube of that actual concert. I'm like, it's way better than I thought, like can recollect in my own mind what I actually saw. So,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
just amazing. But also just between him and MJ, the goats of the 80s, definitely
yeah,
in pop sense. The whole complete package with the dancing, the video production, everything.
yeah,
Um, oh, I mean, Prince winning an Oscar for Purple Rain. I mean, before Kobe, you know what I mean? Like someone in a different industry coming in and showing they can win an Oscar. But like um, the competition between them was always very high because I just
yeah.
heard the other day MJ when he went to book in those 50 concerts at the O2. His reason was because Prince currently has a record of 20. I want to beat that.
Yep.
All
Now
the
they
way to
were fiercely compared, like they were respectful of each other, but there were times when it was kind of toxic. And Michael famously said like once that he was always nervous to go to sleep at night because he was afraid that God would then give all of the ideas to Prince if he was asleep. Like they were fiercely, they respected each other and like during the same time that Prince started doing covers, he would play Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Like he would show respect, but at
Humphrey
times it
Pop.
was very toxic.
Mm,
It was real. It was real competition.
yeah.
It's been sometimes people play it down, but it was
Mm,
gritty and but it was largely musical, it was like they just wanted to one up each other. Like you said, when Prince did something, Michael wanted to do it twice as big
mm.
and vice versa, and Michael was reportedly very jealous of the Purple Rain tour because like Michael never got to tour Thriller. Like because if you remember, Joe, his dad made him go out with his brothers instead for the
Victory.
Triumph tour, or yeah, whatever it was. So he never got to do Thriller the way that Prince got to do Purple Rain. So like there was a lot of that too. Like
Mm.
his dad would always like when he would really successful, like his dad would make him take his brothers with him. And
And a lot of controversy with that as well. That whole tour as well with Don King,
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
watching
yep,
it and the the discrepancy with they lied about what they were paying for. They had to pay in advance to buy their tickets, like it's pretty corrupt actually.
yeah,
There was backlash. MJ said, "Look, don't worry. Um, if this is going to continue, I'm not going to continue with the tour." And then
yeah,
but that was essentially his first world tour.
yeah,
Really,
yeah,
because
yeah.
they played all the thriller hits, Human Nature, all of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was, for all intents and purposes, it was a Thriller tour, but it was never what he wanted to do. And like later, he did it with the Bad tour. With that was kind of really him, sort of. He had Jennifer Baden with him and stuff, and they did the whole thing, and it was incredible. But yeah, he never got to tour Thriller the way that I think he could have because it was the biggest album at the time, and his dad made him take his brothers with him. And hey,
And
I
then
get it, but
Prince
he hated that. He hated that so much.
control of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But those are good stories. Now, like now, you're just like those are the stories that we talk about. It's like the greats and their human sides. Like I love these stories about Prince too. Like he was not perfect. He was not a perfect human, but just an incredible artist.
But motivational as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like inspiring.
Oh yeah, all day, and
Mm,
continues to be. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
mm. current new album, solo
Yeah.
album, Terra Firma. So it seems to me like that is sort of an amalgamation of everything you've done. Solo with Fonte, Foreign Exchange. Give me your sort of thoughts and views on your approach to it, and what was behind the making of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. I think it sums up sort of 20 years of music making. I wanted to do an album that sort of showed all of my sides, if you will. So there's a little bit of hip hop on it. There's some R&B on it. There's house on it. There's drum and bass on it. A little bit of jazz. Um, it was really kind of me sort of making up the balance of 20 years of working. There's a lot of people on the record with whom I've had very long, fruitful relationships like Fonte, Darian Brockington, Yazara, all from the earliest foreign exchange days, but also people like Cy Smith, Carmen Rogers, and then some people that are really new in my life. That I just kind of came across. So I really wanted to just because the group is 20 years old this year, we started talking about how we wanted to celebrate, and we just kind of both decided that the best way to do it would be with making new music and showing that we're still involved in making new music. And so I started working on this album actually kind of 5 years ago, believe it or not, was when I started really kind of laying down the first recordings. And, sometimes you kind of go on and off the beaten path. And it took a little bit longer than I had planned, but uh, so do these things go sometimes. And really kicked it into gear this year. And it was literally one of those albums that was finished like the day I went to mastering it. It was complete, so it was kind of a very fresh thing for me. But yeah, it's kind of a bird's eye view of I think all the things that I've done over the 20 years, and you were talking about funk, like it's got some funk on it. It's got a Stevie Wonder tribute on it, which is a track called Sunflower, which is a subtle ode to songs or a journey through the secret life of plants. It's got a lot of things that I always wanted to do, and it's got an instrumental at the end, which is sort of kind of a subtle hint to my instrumental work over the years. So yeah, I'm very very proud of it. It was like really cool because it was a surprise to everybody that it came out. Like I hadn't really spoken about it a lot, and it was really really cool to see kind of in real time people sort of discovering it, and the fact that they didn't know it was coming, um, and that over the last years I've really done a lot of experimentation, and I wanted to give people something that they wanted, like I've done jazz, I've done electronica, and I just wanted to give people like 15 songs with some great vocalists who I admire. So kind of relatively straightforward. Not a ton of experimentation on there, but just kind of really 15 really great songs. I really wanted to give people kind of what we talked about earlier, how we've conditioned our fans to expect the unexpected. I wanted to reverse engineer that and give people something that I think that they would really like, and as such, kind of meant as fan service in a way.
And yeah, it's great. It's so like as you said, it's sort of a celebration of what you've accomplished in the last 20 years. It wasn't going to be a foreign exchange release because it's almost been 10 years since your last release, right? I mean, of the original.
Yeah, I mean, we released a single earlier this year, "The Gray," with Beck with the Sade cover, and we both do feel like we want to do another foreign exchange album, um, but we're not exactly sure when. In the days of streaming and playlisting, we felt like a single this year made more sense. that track was actually in the film that I scored. Um, that said, yeah, I think we both still would like to do another one. I feel like our legacy is not written all the way just yet. It just has to be the right timing for us. Fonte's been doing a lot with Little Brother as of late, and I did my own records. So I think we're just kind of playing it by ear. A lot of people didn't even see the single coming because, like, what happens when you're on a hiatus sometimes is people think you are broken up. But truth be told, is we've been working every day. We run the label together. We have made a lot of music together over the years, but I know that there's a lot of people still sort of hoping for a foreign exchange album proper. And I think one day they'll get that. I just don't really we ourselves don't really know when. Like, if I'm very honest with you, I'm not trying to play coy or like, oh, and in the meantime we're working on it. We just don't really know. The timing has got to be right for it, and I think time will tell. But we're, in a lot of ways, we're still growing and we're still getting better. So I'd really like to see one more sort of to even out, because that would be number six, and I think we owe the people one more, and then that will be that. Like, at that, because at some point, yeah, maybe one more to one more for the road, as they say. So time will tell. In 4 years, Leave It All Behind will be 20 years, believe it or not. So that will give us another reason to celebrate. So maybe that would be a good time. It's crazy. Time flies.
Wow. No, it's hard to believe, isn't it? Like, it's just,
It is very hard to
I
believe.
mean, that's it. You've been working hard. It's not like you've just been standing by stagnant. I mean, and creating and doing what you love. I mean, you can't get any better than that, right?
No, it really can't, and like, it does feel like yesterday. It's really weird. Like, and people have always said that in my life, that you'll feel it will go by in a flash, and it kind of does, and especially when you work as hard as we do. um yeah, it does really, it feels like it's really flown by. And like, even Connected being 20 years old to me felt really crazy at first, because I remember distinctly as though it was yesterday, working on it and everything. So to know that there's 2 decades have passed is kind of frightening and also beautiful in a way. You know what I mean? And time going by so fast, you just kind of realize that you have to seize the moment whenever you can. And I'm glad we've always done that. We have a lot of music to look back to. We've yeah, like you said, we've always stayed busy. And we have a long list of we're legacy artists now. Like, believe it or not, like, we're no longer the young bucks. Like, we are legacy artists with 20 years of catalog, with a very healthy discography, and that's a lot to be proud of. But it's also kind of crazy to look back and realize that you have more years behind you than you have in front of you. Hopefully, because I'm 50 years old. I don't know if I can make it to 100. Like, I think 80 would be beautiful, but no, but it's kind of crazy. It really is interesting. Like, for a long time, we were kind of the new guys on the block, right? We were kind of the young, sort of the new generation. And like, you get now, like, we'll sometimes get messages like, "Yeah, my dad grew up on you guys' music," and we're like, "What do you mean your dad? Like, what? Like, what are you trying to say?" Like, so it's like, yes, officially no longer young, but very proud of everything that we've achieved. And like I told you earlier, very excited still to keep that experimentation going, as long as we can. And just everybody's still here, everybody's healthy. You know what I mean? Like, that's an amazing thing. Like, everybody that we started out with is still here. That in itself is a beautiful thing. We talked about a lot of artists that are no longer with us over these past hours. So just blessed, man. I just feel blessed, and I just hope that I get to do this for a long time. That's all. That's really all I care, because I don't know how to do anything else. And like I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
I don't have any other talents.
But also, like, I mean, that's all positive. But think about what you've accomplished, this body of work that you've accomplished. I mean, there's got to be a real sense of achievement there, you know, and satisfaction. Absolutely, as an artist and as a creator.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I think the point is that you do that, and then at some point it is no longer yours, but it's of the people. And there's a beauty in that. Like I think about a lot of the music that I love from previous decades, and a lot of people who are no longer here, and to see, for instance, the music of Prince live on is a beautiful and of course bittersweet thing that he's no longer here, but to know that you're creating music that will potentially outlast you, you know, like just to put it blunt, like that's kind of what I think the goal is, right? Like, I mean, people are listening to Beethoven, right, in 2024, and he's been going for so I don't know, some 300 years. I mean,
Did you hear he has got a new single coming out?
ah,
Mozart. Did you hear that?
Mozart.
They found an unreleased or sort of hidden sheet music of his
Really?
that was hidden by his sister or some historical story.
Yeah,
It's one of his early songs. So
that's crazy.
the internet are like, oh, Mozart's coming out. Forget
Coming
Drake.
out with some new heat.
Mozart is back.
Mozart's back with a new one. That's hilarious. Yeah, but I think, but that's like, I don't know. That's interesting, right? That and that doesn't go for everybody, but I think if you do it well, your art outlives you, right? And we've certainly have always tried to put a lot out there, and with all the, you know, with all the passion and the spirit that our souls could muster. And I really do hope that in 20 years from now, which I very much still plan to be around, but that people are still listening, you know. And I think they probably will. I think a lot of things will change, technology will change, the way that people listen to music will change, but I'd like to think that there'll still be people that like what we do at that point. And because right now people are still listening to Connected, you know, which is crazy. I would have never, if you would have told me in 2024, like people are still listening to an album I made 20 years ago, I would have never believed you, you know. So that's a beautiful thing, and I think it shows how powerful music is, and that how powerful human expression is, you know. So it's I plan to do a few more, hopefully, and kind of add to that catalog, to that discography. And you know, but again, like once it's out in the world, like people kind of taking it from here, and I think that's a beautiful thing, you know. I really believe that once it's out of our hands, it's in the hands of the people, and it's theirs to do with as they want. So that's a beautiful sort of full circle thing for sure for us, you know.
Very well stated, and
Yes, sir.
very very much so. Just one last question.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna finish this up.
All right.
What experience this was. What a ride this was.
Beautiful, beautiful. I've enjoyed it, man. I really have.
All right. The question: have you got advice for any upcoming artists? You know, like, you know, we talked about the changing in the climate of the music industry, streaming, and all this right now. AI. Look, what is your advice for artists today, and with how they approach their craft?
You know what? It's going to be more a philosophical answer, not a musical one. I would tell them, ask yourself how much you love it, how much you're willing to sacrifice for doing that. Is it something that you have to do? Is it the same as breathing or eating or sleeping to you? Because if the answer is not a wholehearted yes, a wholehearted like, it's going to be a really really tough road, because we talked about that in 2024. Most likely the only reward that you're going to get is in doing it, in actually The fun is in the process. And so if you have an idea of like, hey, I would, I'm good at music and I would like to do this, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to sacrifice? Do you want this so badly that you have to do it? Because if the answer is not no, if it's not 100%, you should just do it as a hobby. Even no matter how good you are, this is not at this point. This is not for the faint at heart. You're gonna have to sacrifice in many different ways. Like for me, I missed a lot of family life. I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of holidays with my family. We all sacrifice in a number of ways, and I would urge anybody who's thinking about doing this to just have a serious conversation with yourself. And if at the end of that conversation you're like, no, this is all that I can think of, I have to do this, I'm called to do this, then absolutely go for it. But realize that you're choosing a very difficult road, a road that on the flip side of that can also be extremely fulfilling spiritually, otherwise. So I would never want to deter anybody from choosing this path, but this is a different answer than I would have given 20 years ago. And the answer is, are you sure? Like the question is like, are you absolutely sure? And if you are, and you can say that in with certainty, then it might be the path for you to travel. But if you're only 75% sure, I would tell you, like, just do it as a hobby, enjoy this shit whenever you can. But 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 this is a tough road for anybody to take. um you can still there's still people that are extremely successful in music, um but that's not some, like, yes, Beyonce is an incredible star. That's likely not you, though. So again, I would never want to deter anybody, but this is probably a very tricky career path. And it doesn't it's not a line that just goes up. It just goes like this. So you have to be mentally ready to sacrifice, to give your blood and your sweat and your tears. And there's some people there's some people that just simply don't want to do anything else. Those are the people that will keep doing it. And I wish I had a better outlook for people. I wish I had, like, oh, here's a 10-step program to instant success. But listen, we don't even know what the state of the music industry will be in 2 years, in 5 years. Like, we don't really even know. So I would say that anybody wanting to make music right now has to do it for music's sake. Anything else is going to be a world of hurt. So if you feel like you truly can't do anything else, like, go for it. If you feel like you've got something to say that nobody else is saying right now, absolutely go for it. Just know that it's a difficult, sometimes lonely path, but also extremely rewarding. So it's a yeah. Stevie would say, have a talk with God, right? Like, that's, yeah, before you decide, like, yeah, make sure you have a serious conversation with yourself.
It sounds as if you're sort of you're coming from like 20 years of experience in the industry yourself as an independent artist, paving your own way and actually seeing, there's been a lot of controversy, this streaming and stuff, and royalties and all this that's come to light, in probably the last 10 years or so. So I didn't expect that as your what that would be your answer, but considering the climate, it makes total sense.
Yeah, and again, I would never tell somebody don't do it. But this is not an easy path to travel, and the music industry, even when you're independent, like we have kind of operated in all reality, more or less outside of the music industry for the most part. But the music industry is not a very forgiving place, and I just don't want to. I just don't want to sell it as something that is all shits and giggles, because it's not. And I'm saying that largely because there is going to be a moment where you go from making the music to trying to get it into the world, and ideally, benefit from it and maybe have some income from it. And that's kind of sometimes where the rubber meets the road, and yeah, we don't really know how that is all going to look. And if you don't really have a catalog yet or an audience yet, to build that up right now is tough. Like social media is no longer really what it used to be. It's harder and harder to get people's attention. The world is a more intense place, it seems. Like we're noticing that right now, for instance, with in America, there's a big election coming up. People are not very concerned about music right now when they don't really know what's going to happen in the next 4 years. So it seems that in general, the world is getting a bit more treacherous to navigate, and so that kind of plays into these decisions too. And as much as I would tell everybody, like, if you have a talent, like, talent will ultimately surface. I do believe that. um but it's probably harder than it is ever before. At the same time, um your music can be in the hands of anybody within a day. So this sword cuts two ways, right? It's easier than ever to be heard, but there's more people than ever trying to be heard. So how do you rise above that? That is an answer that I couldn't really give you. I know that how we have done it, but that's an individual journey, and with the attention spans of people being so short right now, like it is my experience at this point that people rather turn on Hulu than listen to music, for instance. So um, music will always have a place in society, in the lives of people. Music will always be a way that we connect with each other, with which we process feelings, express feelings, our humanity, and as such, like, if you're called to do it, by all means do it. But just know this is not gonna be a ride in the park, and maybe it shouldn't be, right? Maybe if it's easy, everybody would do it. So whether or not you're going to prevail, it's kind of, you got to sort of see it as a test, I guess. I've seen some really, really strong people fold up their tent and deciding that this has been enough for them over these last few years. Some really talented, really, really strong people that have decided that the time has come for them to choose to do something else. But I also know a lot of people that will do this until the cows come home, and I think I'm one of them. So I'm an optimist against all odds. At the end, I told you that before. I just want people to understand that if you make that decision, don't make it lightly. That's all that I'm saying. Don't make it lightly, and know that there is a price to pay to everything that you decide, right? Like that. So and the same goes for this. But making music is the most beautiful thing that I can think of in the world to do. So the reward is in the process. The reward is in the joy that you feel while making it. And I would not be able to live without making music. I literally, to me, it's like breathing. It's like the air that I need. I need to create. The same way that I feel about listening to music. Music for me is the food that I eat. It's the breath that I take. So I could never imagine a life without it. That's for sure. And it sounds like neither can you.
No, I mean, in the car at my job. I mean,
You're all
I,
in.
I'm like maybe half of the day I'm listening to music. You know,
Yeah.
it's therapy for me. It sort of keeps me grounded. It's relaxing. I mean, it's like this. You hear something you love, a guitar solo for me, whatever, a melody. I mean, the dopamine levels are still going. You know,
Yeah.
I love it. It's my passion.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
that's what you're saying. So if you have a passion, explore that, ride that wave, and you know, something
You might
happens.
change the world. Who
You work
knows?
it, you work it out. But on the other hand, there's negativity. It's different today, like you're saying, as opposed to 20 years ago. You know, you and Fonte, the optimism of that the early days of the internet, and um, the naivety, maybe a little bit in some sense, but um, you know, that's the
Yeah,
time to live.
and
But
I see it as
is at the end of the day is never gonna disappear. But
well, and I see it as a professional. I see it as my responsibility and my duty to paint a realistic picture. Like I wouldn't want to be, yeah, just go for it. It will be great. Like you're asking my opinion as somebody who has worked in music for 20 years. And listen, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That said, there isn't anything that I could think of that I'd rather want to do. And I know that there's other people that feel the same, So for those people, it's probably pretty clear what the answer is, and I think those people will always continue to stand up and make music and make our lives better and enrich our lives. And again, we talked earlier about how we have no control over the technological side of it or the industry side of it, but we have control over what we make. We have control over our humanity. Um, that's probably enough at this point, So if you have something to share with the world, with the people, by all means do that, because we need that. The world is seemingly getting harder every day, and I think there is always a place for connection, for human expression, for music to bring us together during difficult times.
yes, and and just with what you're saying, it's just um I totally agree. Let's leave it. I had something in mind, but I think we'll just wrap it up there. Look.
I like that. Like, I mean, I think this is a good final chapter to the conversation, because we've talked about music of over the last few decades, you know what I'm saying? And we 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 have to acknowledge that um again, the way that we consume music has changed over the years, but like the way that we talk about music, it clearly has not, the impact of it has clearly not changed. And I think that is the thing that I would want to leave people with, that times change, technologies change, our lifestyles changes, our attention span changes, but we talk with passion about music that is now 50, 60 years old. We talk about passion with passion about music that is 10 years old. So clearly everything has changed around us, but music is still something that really is something that connects us, that binds us, and that is a truly a glorious thing. So I do think that is a beautiful thing to leave people with, is that the passion that we feel and that we would like to share with people that listen to this. The love for music across the decades and across the genres, that there's going to be new people exploring that, discovering that every day, every year. And there's so much to discover. Like I'm jealous of people that are young now and discover somebody like a Prince for the first time. Can you imagine? Like, I remember when I first heard Prince, and it was like going back to some of these albums, or P Funk, and the richness of the catalog, and getting to eat that up, hungry as you are. I'm half jealous for young people nowadays that get into these catalogs for the first time and discover a Stevie or a Michael or a Prince, and just are blown away with the richness that is there. So yeah, that is kind of what I take away of everything.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I mean, look, now I recollect what I was going to say. Very brief. I mean, I'm running on 2 hours sleep. It's been
Right.
like a month. No, what I was going to say is there's nothing that I hate more than someone giving some airy fairy, oh, go for your dreams, go for all this without
Right.
any reality,
Right.
involved in the response. So I respect totally everything you just divulged. I mean, it makes total sense.
Yeah, and I'm saying that as somebody who clearly made their dream. Like what you're saying is perfectly true. Um, you have to know both sides of the coin. Yes, go for your dreams. Yes, if you can think of it, you can do it. Yes, imagination. The sky is the limit. Yes, it's all possible. But it's not for everybody, and it's going to be a road where you get, every now and then you're going to get your feelings hurt. And I would always want to be somebody that in 10 years somebody could say, like, you know what, you didn't sugarcoat it. You know what I mean? Because like we're not helping people if we just are really Pollyannish about it and go for your dreams and it will be great and you'll be a rock star and you'll have many groupies. And it's we have to we I think as a professional I feel the responsibility to tell both sides of the story. But I do want to say I'm telling you that as somebody who has definitely been blessed enough to make a lot of dreams come true. So I did these things, and I'm not going to advise somebody else to do what I did, but I'm the living, breathing example of it. So there's that for sure.
Thank you, Nicolay. Thank you for this
Thank you,
conversation.
Ed.
I mean,
It,
I couldn't have
it's
asked
been
for it. It's just, it's sort of like half a dream come true because of,
right,
I've been listening to your music for 20 years, but
amazing.
at
It
the
was
same
so
time,
much fun, dude.
from a musician's perspective, it's just, it's so satisfying, like
Yeah,
to see that um, we can really make sense of what we've experienced and the meaning
yes.
it has in our life. It's important, and it's important for society. So we're able to
Well,
express that, in words in regards to our passions, and
yeah,
we're
yeah,
able
yeah.
to do that. Or you, especially
I
you. Yeah.
I really enjoy sort of talking to you and recognizing a lot of the same passion and know that we have so much in common. You know what I mean? Even though we come from very different places, it's really nice to see how much like how excited we get when we come up with these topics and artists, and all of a sudden we just start talking and we start getting really excited and passionate, and it's so much fun to experience that. So thank you. This was really fun, and I feel like we're kindred spirits for sure. Like that is absolutely the case. So yeah,
Uh,
thank you so much, man. It was a fun time, and I like that we didn't just talk about us, but also about just in general other people that we love and admire, and I really enjoyed it.
yeah. So look, people, this is the officially the definitive Nicolay interview.
Yes, you said it, and you were right.
I had to cover everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You said it going in, and I think you can make that claim. I think you make that claim. Are you
I
able
don't
to
think.
get some rest now, or what? What is the rest of your day going to look like?
Well, look, I don't think I'm going to edit much out of this, which makes my job easier because
Right,
5 hours,
right.
man, this is like the most epic interview ever, man. I'm telling you, man. I mean, I'm
Wonderful.
not going more hornbeat. I'm just excited and passionate. That's all it
Nah,
is.
you did like you. I mean, normally after hour one, I'm like, okay, look, this was fun, but yeah, if I stay on this long, like you can definitely take that as a massive compliment. You can take that as a compliment, bro. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I appreciate it. Conversing with you, and I appreciate your time, man. I really truly had a great time, and I really hope that we can stay in touch, man. Like I would really like that.
Yeah, we will for sure. Absolutely.
And
Thank you,
keep me
Nicolay.
posted on the final product so that I can make sure that I share that on my side.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. I'm gonna make this look pretty, and look, the world's gonna love it. I'm gonna link everybody. You know, like, cause man, I've been getting likes for, I mean, my own stuff from everyone. Niall, Bootsy, David Page, all these guys, man. So
Wow.
it's positive. And I've got an interview coming up with Austin Brown, who's Michael Jackson's nephew. So he's got, I mean, he's introduced guitar into his music now, and that's why he wants me to sort of. So we're gonna talk about his music, pretty much go through what we just went through, but from his
That's
perspective
amazing.
and from his background. I mean, like, it's just,
That is
I mean,
so cool, dude.
and that's it. I want to bring more recognition to funk in general, funk guitar, and from a genuine place, you know. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
I love it, man. Well, I wish you nothing but the best of luck, man, going forward. And yeah, man, I appreciate it so much, dude. So
Thanks.
yeah, keep me posted on everything that you're doing, and I'll do the same.
Thank you.
We're connected now, no pun intended.
No. We'll accept it as connected. It's an
Absolutely.
extension of foreign exchange. I'm in Australia.
There you go. There you go. It's literally the textbook example of that. Yes, sir. Yeah, man.
Okay.
Awesome, dude. Keep me posted, man. And I'm looking forward to the final interview. And yeah, we'll be in touch, brother.
Keep in touch for sure.
You'll be very safe out there, man. Okay.
I'll be driving slowly on the way back because I don't want to risk anything. But no, I'm okay. I'm okay. I don't live too far from here, so I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. No doubt, man. Well, we'll speak soon, Ed.
Okay, take care.
How you too, man?
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Take care.